It's B-side time again on the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast, and on this episode we'll be chatting about the Sign of the Times single B-side, La 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 He He He, and joining me again on the show is Richard Cole. Welcome back to the show, Richard.
All right, welcome Diane, Jason, and hello everybody out there.
Thank you for joining me again. The last time you joined me on an episode was for another B-side. You were on the Love or Money episode from the Parade era.
Yeah.
Must be something about B-sides, man, that you that you kind of dig.
Oh, I've loved them. Musician friends of mine, that's all we gravitated towards, B-sides, album tracks. So, yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, B-sides are kind of, well, back when, people bought singles, that was a really important aspect, to determine whether or not you wanted to buy a single. Because if I'm looking, if I'm a kid in the late 80s, and I have a tape deck and a blank tape, if I want to listen to the song whenever I want to listen to a song, I could just record it off the radio. So for me to go out and purchase a single, a lot of times it needed to offer something new or different, like either a really cool remix or, in the case of a lot of Prince singles, kind of an exclusive, unique B-side that you couldn't find off of the album. And so he was just, dropping them left and right in the 80s, and makes sense. I mean, he had so many songs. I almost feel like any song that he didn't do that, I'm like, well, where's the unique B-side? Why didn't we get something special off of, the You Got the Look single? Or why didn't we get something unique off of I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man? We know we had the songs. We got them all on the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe Edition. Any one of those could have been dropped as a B-side on those two other singles in the United States, and we would have been happy. But whatever. We got what we got, and now we have them all to listen to for ourselves. So it's neither here nor there. But anyway, yeah, the B-sides are great. And this is a kind of an interesting B-side because it has two very kind of distinct versions. You've got the 7-inch B-side, which is, the short edited version, just a normal song length. But then, like Prince did a lot of on his 12-inch singles, he's got a flip side of this Sign of the Times single, which is the B-side. That's what this is, the B-side too, the debut song off of the first track released off of the Sign of the Times album. You've got this 10+ minute, it's highly explosive is what it's in parenthetical name for La 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 He He He. And this is like the definitive version in my opinion. Did you have this single at the time it was released?
I went straight for the 12-inch single. And that was just because the 45 version I was hearing on radio. So, in the 80s, it was that transition between old school DJs having more control and playing what they felt like over to, corporate takeover. And that was kind of one of the last unique things you got on radio was the Prince B-side. And so I remember hearing that, and it was like, it reminded me a lot of Atomic Dog by George Clinton. I'm like, oh, Prince is doing, he's trying to, do one better or do something inspired by it. And it's, it's funky as all get out. So I think I just went, instead of just buying the 45, I just waited for the 12-inch single and was not disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, they cost a little more money, of course, but they were almost always worth it, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, good kind of segue into talking about, Atomic Dog, and it's the themes of the song, because you can't tell by the title, La 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 He He, but in this song, it's kind of like this lengthy, silly allegorical story where Prince takes on the persona of a dog, like a canine, in the song.
Right.
And there's a lot of these metaphors, dog and cat metaphors between him and we assume, a female cat. or in the case of if it being applied to humans, he's kind of basically pursuing this woman, but it's in this, I want to say, in some ways like a bit of a nursery rhyme or some sort of kids allegorical story where everything is kind of taken down to a relatable level. He's not using real suggestive words, but I guess in some ways there's a lot of double entendres, and we'll get into those as the song goes on. But it's like taking the typical boy meets girl, girl's playing hard to get, but also showing that she's interested, but using dogs and cats in place of humans, which makes the song a little more different, interesting, however you want to put it. Another interesting thing about the song is kind of its genesis or its formation, and there's been, this has been documented. It was actually, I didn't know much about the history behind the song or how it was written or, the genesis of it until I received the hits and B-sides collection from '93, and then that's when Prince started adding all of these little notes and little stories about how songs came about, especially for the B-sides, but he did it for all of them. But a lot of the B-sides were always kind of like a mystery, like where did the song come from? When was it recorded? Who participated on it, especially if you didn't own the 12-inch and you couldn't read the liner notes. Mm-hmm. So on this one, for La 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 He He He, as the story goes that Prince relayed in the hits and B-sides liner notes, this was kind of created off of a dare that Sheena Easton, who he collaborated with several times in the 80s, had basically dared him to write a song using a really simple kind of inane chorus, la la la, he, I love you, you love me. Something that seems so simple that it'd be very difficult to create a compelling song using just that as the chorus. And Prince allegedly took on that bet and created the song as a result. Is that pretty much how you understand the story, Richard?
Yeah. Same with you. I got the story from the hits and the B-sides liner notes. Yeah. And I, it's interesting, when you have prolific songwriters and, where people that don't normally write songs, in a way it is magic, but on their perspective, it's like it's more magical. So they present these challenges like, oh, I bet you can't write a song about this or write a song about that. It's the same with, Dustin Hoffman challenging Paul McCartney. Can you write a song based off of Picasso's last words? And bang, in minutes, he wrote a song about Picasso's last words. And same with La La La, He. To create something that, the fans can relate to. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Anybody can create a song that nobody cares about and can't listen to. But if you're trying to make a song that is going to actually see wide release and be considered, a viable option as a B-side to one of your singles, like a top single, the first single released from the album, that's an even more challenge right there, I would say. And
I think it works too, because you don't want to take away from the A side, but at the same time, you still want to give your fans their money's worth on it. So I think that was an excellent choice for B side for one of his most powerful singles in Sign of the Times.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a very drastic tonal change between the A and the B side on that single. In many ways, I feel like this song thematically and tonally would have been better suited to flip side for You Got the Look. I mean, You Got the Look is a silly single. I mean, nobody takes the lyrics seriously. It's Prince's joking throughout most of the song anyway. So this song would have fit right in on as the flip side to that, similar to how like Horny Toad was the perfect B-side for Delirious. If you like Delirious, you're going to love Horny Toad because it's basically the same song. But, at the same time, there's something interesting about showing off your range on a single as well and saying, like, I'm not always going to, like, don't worry, this whole album isn't going to just be serious political kind of statements like Sign of the Times, I still got the funk, I still got my sense of humor, and it's gonna, la 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 he might not be a song on the album, but don't worry, I'm still that guy. I could still create songs like that. And so I guess from that perspective, it works just fine as a B-side to Sign of the Times. Sheena gets a co-writing credit for this song. I think she's come out to say like she actually contributed a large percentage of the lyrics, or at least a couple verses worth of lyrics, telling her story. Maybe similar to how Susanna Melvoin gets co-writing credit for Starfish and Coffee, where it might have been like Prince, Sheena related a story or an idea, and then Prince kind of ran with it, kind of situation. So as a result, Sheena gets some co-writing credit for this song as well.
Yeah, I can see that now. So I've always had the liner note story in my head to where she just kind of gives the premise, and he went and did everything else.
Yeah, Again, that might have been all that it was given. I just read a quote from Sheena later on in the decade, maybe 2012 or something like that, where she suggested maybe there was more to it than that, but at this point, she's got a co-writing credit regardless, so I don't know if it really matters.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I see the opposite working too. We're hearing more of these stories now where he was encouraging certain proteges to, attempt to write lyrics. So yeah, I can see that side of it too.
Yeah, and I guess they co-wrote Arms of Orion together too, so it's not like Prince was completely against writing a song with Sheena, because he did it, shortly after again. So yeah, just kind of something that he did. I mean, he wrote You Got the Look. Sheena doesn't even get like co-performance credit on that song, which is I have found that always funny. Like, it doesn't say Prince featuring Sheena Easton, You Got the Look. It's Prince, You Got the Look. And it's like, oh yeah, who's that?
Yeah,
That's Sheena Easton. Yeah, obviously the video makes it very evident to anybody that who's wondering who the woman's voice is, that it's her. But I think this song is also really well known for having that kind of unique barking sample that was added. I think it was the Fairlight synthesizer that included all of these different pre-rendered or pre-saved sounds on it, like that you could just program in. It was already on there. He didn't have to add it himself. It was like it came installed with this barking sound. And hey, when else are you going to use a barking sound in a song than a song that you're writing about from the perspective of a dog? So it's perfect, I guess.
Yeah, I've loved that sample.
Yeah, it works perfectly.
Yeah. And to me, of course, Atomic Dog is probably the better song, but give points to Prince with the dog sample on that. That dog was definitely on the one, for real.
Yeah. Again, that's, people maybe don't know the lyrics by heart, but they know the different barks, because you got the bark that kind of goes steady throughout the beat. It acts as almost like a drum beat. The bark, roof, roof, roof. It kind of goes along with it, but then you get the sporadics. The other ones, I don't know. I can't really do it. I'll probably insert the barking sound right here that I'm thinking of. The roof, roof, roof. Yeah, that one. So it's not the same bark throughout the entire song. It is ultimately because he repeats it throughout, but the combination of the two different barking sounds that he uses really makes the song fun, and it kind of sticks with you long after you've listened to it. Mm-hmm. All right. So anything else you wanted to mention about the song before we get started and digging into the lyrics?
No, that's it. Let's dive into the lyrics.
Okay, so again, this is a silly song, people. So we're not going to try to extract any At least I don't think we're going to. We'll see
Right.
what
Yeah.
path we go down, but I
Right.
don't think
Don't.
there's going to be. Yeah, don't want to play show all my cards yet, but who knows? Who knows what we'll find out?
Right, but don't play it backwards. There's nothing going on. You know.
Yeah, it's a song about a dog and a cat.
Yeah.
All right, so the first verse is, I am a dog outside your door. I have been there since 3:45. You are a cat looking intense. I bite your leg in self-defense. All right, so, I mean, this is just kind of like the setup, really, the setup verse to the story of Prince as the dog, or, you know, Prince's character singing from the perspective of a dog. I mean, I'm not saying Prince is calling himself a dog. But again, just the whole utilizing the term dog. So dog has a ton of different kind of slang or colloquial term uses in the English language. It can be, you know, that's my dog, as like that's my buddy, that's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
To call a man a dog in a negative way, depending on the context, then that's a person who's just gonna, you know, say and do what it takes to sleep with somebody. You know, not really sincere in their intention besides just having sex with somebody else. Those are dogs, right? I mean, that's a dog. Dog can be somebody who's unattractive, you know, or unpleasant. So there's so many different ways that dog is used outside of its normal animal canine context, that without knowing, you know, like listening to all the rest of the words and how it's being used in the sentence, you have to kind of figure out and glean from that information what context, what version of dog is being used. I am a dog outside your door. So initially we don't know what to get from that line. And I've been there since 3:45. You are a cat looking intense. And by the third line, him bringing in the cat analogy or metaphor, I guess, in this story, he's kind of telling us that he's talking about like the literal animals in some ways, or at least in one interpretation.
Yeah, it's almost fairy tale like, or children's story like, which, you know, nursery rhymes in pop music, you know, that sort of, I don't know what you would call it, cadence or timbre, whatever, where, you know, that's a cornerstone in a lot of pop music. So that's kind of the go-to if you just want to do just like a very simple song. You don't want to go too deep. I think like Everyday People, that's a example of it. Nelly's Country Grammar, that's another example. Where, yeah, it's just kind of the way it's sung. It's just lighthearted, it's simple, and, you know, you don't have to, well, except in Sly's case, that was still pretty heavy. It's about, you know, people coming together, but, you know, it was kind of served with a spoonful of sugar, I guess.
Yeah, and this is going to be a story about, as I mentioned already, a male dog, we have to assume, pursuing a female cat. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunities throughout the lyrics to add those double entendres that on the surface seem innocent when you're talking in the context of animals, but of course, you know, have the double meaning and have alternate meanings when you're, well, first of all, when it's a Prince song, but second of all, even if it wasn't a Prince song, the way it's sung and surrounded by the rest of the story, you know, maybe a more mature listener can pick out something else. And there's certainly other lines in the song where I think more so in the 12-inch version where it's even becomes more clear that it kind of straddles that line between, you know, G-rated lyrics and like R-rated lyrics. It's like you could take it either way depending on your maturity level, depending on how close you're paying attention, depending on how much you are aware of the different alternate meanings of certain words. And that, you know, it's just something that Prince has done a lot in his career, and this is another example of that, and it certainly is an effective one, I think. I do think that Prince using the word dog to describe himself doesn't, like, so he could have used any animal, right? So he could have used, you know, he could have called himself a horse, or he could have called himself a bear, or he could have called himself an owl. I mean, literally anything. I think he chooses dog here because of all the different meanings that I have already kind of alluded to that dog can be used besides just its more common phrase. In this case, I think he's also kind of in some ways calling himself or considering himself like a horn dog, or the kind of dog that is in pursuit of sexual pleasure, that kind of dog. I don't know if you thought of that as well, or if you think that is true, or just.
I'd go more for the George Clinton influence, because
Okay.
especially the 80s. Like I said, Atomic Dog was like the big one, but then you also have Copycat, which was, I forget which album that was on, but that song, and actually that was a diss song towards Prince and Morris Day, actually. But the dog and cat metaphors were everywhere in both songs. And I think,
So you're thinking it's more of like a response to that, or just kind of like another take on that.
like an influence, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. I'm down with it. So then, throughout between some of these verses before, or when they don't get to the chorus yet, you'll still hear somebody in the background, probably Prince, saying "Say it," and then you've got the dog barking in between. And then the second verse is, "Get out my tree, grinning at me, licking your tail like it's cream, stroking your whiskers, causing a scene. That's not the way to me." Okay, so in the second verse, it's again, I think it's a lot of just some of the somewhat similar kind of playful metaphors that he's using, and the dog and cat. Like, okay, so what do cats do? They climb trees. Dogs don't climb trees. Cats like to lick clean themselves. Dogs will do that, but I think cats are maybe a little more known for their meticulous cleaning habits. So in the second line, the cat's licking its tail, and then he uses the term like it's cream, which he could have. I guess it makes sense because the cats allegedly like cream and dairy products, even though I think they're not supposed to have them. I think it's healthy for them.
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of like one of those stereotypes that cats, giving a saucer of milk or whatever, and I don't think that really works in the 21st century anymore. I think we've learned too much about cats' dietary habits and ability to process dairy products. Whatever, that's not really relevant here. Stroking your whiskers, causing a scene. So, like, what do you like in the second verse, Richard?
My take on it is, I think he's just describing the playfulness or the sassiness of the female in this one.
Yeah, it's almost like she's taunting him in some ways.
Right. Yeah, like you said, being playful and hard to get, or just being sassy and drawing a lot of attention, and it's kind of, I don't know, putting them off a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he uses the words stroking and licking in these lines, and this is where like the double entendres start getting pretty heavy, because on the surface, licking your tail like it's cream, very innocent line. Stroking your whiskers, also very innocent. But then you throw it in a Prince song that's kind of a little bit about sex. Right. All of a sudden, these lines and these words have these alternate meanings, and you can take it down a dirty path if one wants to.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure this is a family show, so.
Well, I don't know how many kids are actually listening to my show, but at this point on a Prince podcast, I've kind of given up on being too family friendly. So it is what it is. And that's not the way to me, I think, is an interesting way to close that verse, because it kind of gives me the impression that he's telling this cat in this scenario that it's not working. like all this showboating and playing hard to get and taunts are not working on it. That's not the way to me. So I don't know what is the way to him. I don't know if he explains later, but he's saying this isn't working, even though I think he's lying a little bit. I think it's working quite well.
In a way, it's a knockoff So it's like you just try to put the words in where they fit, but at the same time, like I said, it is kind of telling a little bit of a story, or it's kind of like a cartoon story in a way, metaphorically speaking. And yeah, so I think it's, I guess the question would be, is it like, okay, he's not looking for the sassy, attention getting females. Is he really wanting the girl next door, or he's wanting her to be more the girl next door, and that's why it's not working?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he doesn't really expand on that idea in the rest of the song, so we don't really know, but he just tells us that it's not working. So we just have to believe him, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get the refrain again, which is like the say it and the barking, but then he goes into the chorus, and the chorus is, and the doggies say to the kitty, la, 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 he, I want you, you want me. Oh, how sexy it will be if we ever get together in my tree. All right, so that's the chorus, and as I kind of already mentioned at the start of the show, the chorus was, I believe, if the story that was written about how the song was intended to be created was really sort of like, hey, here's a really simple rhyme, make a song about it. And this chorus is a very simple rhyme pattern. Doggies say to the kitty, la la la, he, I want you, you want me. It doesn't get much more nursery rhyme than that.
Right.
But then he adds the how sexy it will be if we get together in my tree. Okay, not too many nursery rhymes use the word sexy in it, so you already kind of taken out of the nursery rhyme aspect by adding the word sexy, but ultimately it's just kind of like him saying, I want you, I wish we could get together, but for whatever reason, this cat is very difficult to attain. And I like how he does use the whole tree part of it, because again, cats can climb trees if they've got their claws.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs are not known for climbing trees, not their thing, and so it kind of feels like he's using that that kind of example or that visual of a cat up in the tree, dog down on the ground, difficult to get to them to in this case hook up, I suppose. But it's just kind of interesting that he calls it my tree, like if we ever get together in my tree. So I guess maybe it's just a tree in that dog's yard, and that's kind of what I get from it.
Yeah. Dogs are attracted to trees for a different reason, but it makes sense. It makes sense for the song.
Yeah.
And like
that's the only other way I can interpret it, because otherwise dogs don't have trees unless it's just the tree in their yard, or the tree like you kind of alluded to, the tree that they've peed on and marked as theirs.
Yeah, so territorial, possession, wanting to possess the female. So yeah, there's some subliminal stuff going on.
Yeah, I would agree there.
For years, I thought the line was in my dreams instead of tree. It's just like, later on down the line, it's like, oh, well, tree makes more sense.
Yeah.
Than dream, but.
I guess according to Prince Vault, this song was originally called My Tree. I've never heard that version of the song called My Tree. Like it says, according to Prince Vault, it had different vocal take. But obviously you can imagine the song being called My Tree because he repeats that word. I don't know. I really don't know much about, what is My Tree version of the song that was allegedly called My Tree versus what we ended up getting, la la la, he. But that is something that's been documented in Prince Vault, which is, pretty reputable. So.
I haven't heard it, but there is a song called My Tree. I didn't know it was related to this song.
I don't think it is.
But maybe musically some elements might have ended up in that. But remember, he was working on or still conceptualizing Graffiti Bridge as early as 1987.
True.
And I'm not sure not too sure when My Tree was written, but I know it was intended for one of the versions of Graffiti Bridge, I think. So yeah, I think there's one that does exist.
Yeah, there is, and according to Prince Vault, these two songs are, that My Tree and the initial version of La 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 Hee 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 that was titled My Tree are not related at all. But there was Two Love and Sexes that were recorded in around the same, kind of the same 2-3 year period, and they have nothing to do with each other. So
right.
Nothing wrong with recycling the title of a track that ended up getting a new name anyway. So in Prince's mind, like I never really called that song My Tree, so why can't I title a completely different song My Tree if it makes sense to do so? Nobody's going to get confused because at that time there wasn't this meticulous note taking, and there weren't all of these books on Prince and Prince vaults and things like that had all of this information readily available to those of us who who choose to like dig into his discography and unreleased stuff. So I suppose in his mind is like, who cares? It never actually got called My Tree, so I can reuse it.
Well, he did with Girl, because you had the one that the Time does, and then you have Girl, which is the Prince B-side.
Yep.
From America. But yeah, like you said, we weren't as in-depth then as we are now. But yeah, that knowledge of him having about 300 songs back then in the vault, that was just starting to come to the surface.
Yeah. Very early stages of that information being communicated. All right, so moving on to the third verse. Third verse is, "Hey little pussy, you sure look sweet, knocking me off my 4 feet. Sure do wish dogs could climb, then we could have a funky good time." So yeah, again, here's a good example of another double entendre and just kind of a word that isn't dirty if it's taken out of context, or context is everything. And then also, how is it being used? I mean, he did it to much, and of course the word I'm talking about is pussy here. So cat, pussy, synonymous terms. He does this even, he goes even further into this this double entendre, the specific double entendre on Love Sexy B-side Scarlet Pussy. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can get down with that. I'll do that again. I liked how I could be dirty but without being explicit, and that's like something he liked doing, being dirty without being explicit. And when you're talking about a song that's about a cat, you can slip in terms like pussy and get away with it.
Yeah.
That's the only time that he could say that and get away with it on a song like this and not get slapped with a parental advisory sticker, potentially. And then, of course, he mentions that he wished he could climb, which is, I'm glad that he mentions that, because it just kind of hammers home the idea, or the visual that we, the listener, get of this cat sitting in a tree, that the dog is just unable to get to her because she's, staying up high, and the dog can't get up that tree to get with her in that way, because he says, I wish I could climb so we could have a funky good time. And I think we all kind of figure out what he's referring to in terms of that funky good time.
Oh yeah. But she's still the unattainable.
She stays unattainable pretty much throughout this song. I haven't mentioned it yet. I'm gonna be digging a little bit into the lyrics of the highly explosive version, not just the edited version that was found on the 7-inch, found on the hits and B-sides, but the actual 12-inch version that we got at the time, and also on the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe Edition, because that version was not as readily available until unless you had the 12-inch on vinyl. I don't even know if it was released on CD or cassette at any point. Don't know that. But in verse 4, we've got, "Why you wink at me, I don't really see. Nasty little cat up in a tree. Is it really worth the one night of fun? You've got 9 lives. I've only got 1. So, Richard, what do you see in this particular verse that you dig?
That one can go in a lot of different directions. I guess on a heart level, it's a thing of, yeah, you'd have fun for that one night, but then your heart gets nothing from it. And then we're also talking the 80s, where AIDS was sort of the pandemic of the moment, and where one night can definitely cost you your life in that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to say, because it was still relatively on record. That was still a taboo subject.
Yeah, Prince brought it up on Sign of the Times.
Sign of the Times, right?
Yep.
But that was more relative. But to put something like that in a playful song, I think it was like another 2 or 3 years before even he attempted to tackle that in something as just a straight up dance number.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, because and I don't know, again, if I'm just looking at this with 2021 kind of eyes on, but the line, you've got 9 lives, is it really only worth one night of fun? You've got 9 lives, I've only got 1. Does also tell me or gives me the same kind of thoughts about it being kind of like almost like a cautionary tale in some ways. Like, sex is great, but it can also be dangerous if you're not careful, or if you don't protect yourself, or if you're playing Russian roulette with sleeping with a lot of other people. It doesn't have to be something as deadly as HIV, just anything. But to bring up the whole, you've got 9 lives, I've only got 1, you can easily think that way. Like, this could be a deadly experience for me. And so I have to think about myself, because I've only got 1 life,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It is clever, though. It's a clever reference to the old saying about cats with 9 lives. I mean, we all know that that's not literally true.
Right.
You can't kill a cat and then it comes back to life 8 more times. But I never looked too in depth into where that saying came from. Maybe it's just because cats seem to escape serious injury fairly simple or fairly easily. Like, you can drop a cat off of several stories and it can just potentially just run away and uninjured. And it just seems like cats have this uncanny way of escaping serious injury. I know, tell that to the owners of a cat who got hit by a car and killed, they would disagree. But there's plenty of, I think I can cite several examples just with the cats that I've had in my lifetime where, like, how did you escape that uninjured? Like, something that they did that should have at least injured, if not killed them. So I kind of get that's probably where the saying came from, if I had to guess. But I do like that line, because it makes you think a little bit too, more than just being a fun, playful take on cats having 9 lives saying, and dogs, don't have that luxury. There's no similar saying for dogs.
Yeah, they can fall off of buildings, and they too can get hit by cars as well. They don't have that natural ability that cats have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which also maybe is why dogs aren't, from a genetic standpoint, from an evolutionary standpoint, aren't good tree climbers, because
right.
because they can't fall from high trees and live. So they're like, you know what? I think evolution's just going to change this and make sure that these dogs stay on the ground.
Right.
Cats, you can go ahead and get up in those trees. You'll be okay if you fall, for the most part. He calls the cat nasty little cat up in a tree. And again, that, to me, I just get visuals of this cat kind of being sassy, as you already mentioned, kind of being full of themselves. Call back maybe to Nasty Girl from Vanity 6 from, handful of years prior, where it's kind of like it could be thought of as a badge of honor, like, I'm a nasty girl. Like, Vanity sang it as if it was a good thing, like self-empowerment, and this is who I am, and I'm going to embrace it. But nasty can also be a negative, depending on, again, the context.
Yeah, and then you had Janet's Nasty.
Yeah, which was a big hit around that same time, exactly. Mm-hmm. And she embraced it with her song. Being nasty was a good thing for the boys, that she was, something she was attracted to in that case, in that song, the Nasty Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Anything else you wanted to talk about with this fourth verse?
No. I mean, it's probably maybe the best line of the song.
I like it. Yeah. I agree. I think it's the best line.
Yeah, and of course, as the song builds, that's a good, set of lines to where it takes the song to the next level too.
Yeah, and normally this would be like, we get another we get another round of the chorus again. The doggies say to the kitty, la la la, hee hee, I want you, you want me. Oh, how sexy it'll be if we ever get together in my tree. But this would be about the time that the 7-inch version would fade out.
Right.
And I think the only line you hear after that in the 7-inch version, the only line that I hear is I hear him say, I'm picking up your scent, and you can barely make it out. Like it's like a second or two before it completely fades out entirely. And so I was thinking to myself as I was listening to the 7-inch version before I started listening to the 12 in preparation for the show, I was like, I bet that there's more to that. And because, this is a song, and I will be fully upfront about it. This is a song that when I would listen to the highly explosive version, I wasn't thinking too deep into the lyrics. I did always like verse 4 because I didn't say it, but when Prince says the line, you've got 9 lives, I've only got 1. He screams that, so he really emphasizes that line in the song, and so it really grabs your attention. It's a great line, and he grabs your attention with his delivery. So I was always kind of drawn to, that 4th verse and specifically that line. But honestly, when you start getting into, the additional 5-6 minutes that we have in the highly explosive version, it's mostly about the musical journey that the song takes you on, not so much about the lyrical journey. So I was rarely paying attention too much about the lyrics. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is there is a woman's voice, pretty clearly heard throughout this song, and maybe it's because Cat Glover was such a presence during this time, the Sign of the Times era, that I guess she raps on what song does she rap on?
Alphabet Street.
Alphabet Street. God, not even a song off of this album. Regardless, Cat is all over the place. She was on the single cover, with the heart over her head. So some people thought it was Prince. So I guess I just jumped to conclusions that it was Cat's voice on this song. It would also make sense because her name is Cat to bring her on, or her nickname is Cat, short for Catherine, but to bring her on this song to sing back up with Prince. But it's actually Sheila E. So just to clarify that in case somebody wasn't really sure whose voice it is, it's Sheila's. That she gets the credit for that. Okay, so the 12-inch version, Richard, before we start digging into the lyrics and to the extra lyrics that we get in the 12-inch version, anything you want to say about, the extra music or, the woman, the female voice we get along with Prince's?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I went straight for the 12-inch single, but having heard enough of the single edit of it, like you said, when it starts to fade out and you hear Prince's voice going, picked up your scent. One of the great things about getting a Prince 12-inch single with the expanded version of the track is that you're still listening and there's going to be more coming, but you got to get through what you're used to hearing with the single. And then there's that transition of, okay, this is where it normally fades out, but now we're going on a whole different journey.
Yeah.
And again, this one, I mean, this was sort of the peak of that whole B-side, I don't want to say B-side myth, but the experience of enjoying the fun of having Prince B-sides, starting from like maybe 82, 83. But when you got to 86, 87, 88, definitely 87 was sort of that peak because you had this, Shockadelica. Yeah, like, this was a fun one having that 12-inch single. And when it gets to, past the point of I picked up your scent, there's so much going on. So let's dive into the lyrics.
Yeah, he takes us on a journey for sure. Now, most of it's musical, but some of the things that he does here is like you get an extra saxophone breakdown that you don't get on the 7-inch version. And so Eric Leeds and Atlanta Bliss's horn playing is all throughout the song. So we just get a little bit more of that. And after he says, I'm picking up your scent, then he adds the additional line, you must be wet. So I get, that's not going to be on the 7-inch single in case any radio station was going to flip that up. But again, it's just, you must be wet. I mean, we know exactly what he's talking about. This, and I said before, like the use of the word pussy in verse 3 was pushing the envelope. This pushes it even further.
Oh, so it's off the table.
It's off the table. Exactly. It's off the table. So he says, I'm picking up your scent. You must be wet. And then he says something about like, you hound dog. And he repeats some lines like, I want you, you want me. And, just again, a little bit of riffing on the chorus again. And you get some kind of like call outs to his band. Yo, relative, just gonna play them. You're gonna play that bass. He's talking, I'm guessing, to Levi, because that was his bass player at the time, unless he's talking to himself, because of course Prince obviously plays bass as well. So who knows? I think it even says in Prince Vault that Levi Caesar's involvement in the song was unknown. And I mean he's done that in other songs where he like calls out this imaginary bandmate to start playing an instrument that Prince ultimately just does himself anyway. But of course, I think a lot of times he does that to give the impression like it's a band moment. That way, when it's performed live, you can do that kind of thing and it's natural and it fits because he actually is then at that point talking to a bandmate as opposed to just himself. Let's see. You're just going to play that bass, just going to do the line over. No, yes. I mean, some of that's just kind of riffing. It's not really, I wouldn't call that lyrics. But then he starts using the word Rover. So Rover is like this very stereotypical dog name, like Rover. Nursery rhyme, the Rover one. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
yeah, you're right. It's been around for a long time, but I'm thinking about Fire.
Red Rover. It's Red Rover.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the nursery rhyme one.
Yes, I was thinking of Red Rover, the nursery rhyme. So yeah, that's been around. What were you thinking of?
Yeah, well, yeah, like you said, that one's been around forever. It's like was it nursery rhyme or a children's game?
Yeah, something like that. It might even be
where
a game
that uses a nursery rhyme. There's that, but which Jimi Hendrix, took it, and I'm thinking this is the song Fire, because he's, he kind of goes into the break and starts going into the solo, where he's just riffing, and he's like, yeah, move over, Rover, let Jimmy take over.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Good call out. I know you like Jimmy, and I used to listen to a lot of Jimmy. I bought like a lot of like in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was buying his estate's stuff, like when they would release new things, kind of like the Prince estate does now, like collections of vault material, Jimmy's vault material. But yeah, good call out. There's actually a song by Led Zeppelin called "The Rover" as well.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it has anything to do with a dog. So that's kind of I don't think it is. I don't remember the lyrics of that song very clearly, but regardless, here he starts talking about this dog named Rover. Be cool, Rover. Don't bite nobody. Rover,
Yeah.
get your ass over here, sit down.
Yeah.
Rover, you got to get over. Rover, you got to get over. He repeats that a couple times. So this is kind of funny. And he says, I think his delivery here is humorous as well. So Prince is clearly having fun with this song, fun with performance of this song, and kind of saying these outlandish lyrics, just kind of letting loose, I guess, in some ways, not being concerned about how kind of ridiculous the whole thing is, and just enjoying it, because I mean the song lyrically is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's pretty commonly accepted as a ridiculous but fun song. And so if Prince was trying to do this with a straight face or real seriously, it wouldn't be as enjoyable. And the music does a lot of really cool things. It's called highly explosive, this version, because he constantly inserts like this artificial explosion noise, like atomic bomb kind of explosion noise throughout. And I'm guessing that's another Fairlight sample sound. I don't know that for a fact, but I don't know. If somebody knows differently, let me know. But
yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with all the presets or pre-rendered sounds that were included in the Fairlight synthesizer. So if somebody knows, let me know. But it would make sense.
Yeah, I remember so he might have had some DX equipment too. I remember the DX27 had a thunderstorm kind of preset to it.
Maybe, yeah. Lots of options, I guess. So then later on, he also, in this highly explosive version, he uses the word slammin' again. So he says, slammin', if I was the dog and you was the cat, baby, I'd show you where it's at. Hey, little pussy, you sure look sweet, knocking me off my 4 feet. So again, that's kind of like a repeat of some of the lines earlier in the song. Baby, the funk is on, slammin', slammin'. He repeats the word slammin'. And I find that interesting or curious just because it was recorded shortly after he recorded You Got the Look, and of course anybody who knows the song You Got the Look, he says slammin', That's using some of the hip hop vernacular at the time. In 1987 was certainly something he was starting to incorporate into his lyrics. Black Album, Sign of the Times.
Yeah. We wore that word out.
Everything was slamming until nothing was slamming anymore.
Yeah, it was some friends of mine we wore that word out just because of You Got the Look, just because of La 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 Black Album, the whole thing. I think between 87 and 88, we wore that word out a bit.
I think a lot of people did, because unfortunately for the word, it's not one that really has stood the test of time in terms of being used. And I know some words come back, but I mean, words that were used in the 80s and like hip hop vernacular, like dope, or I mean, nobody really uses def that much anymore either. Like, oh man, that was def. Def and slammin' kind of were of a time, of a specific time. And they got retired sometime in the 90s, I think. Anyway, so yeah, I just, it just kind of speaks to the time that Prince was writing and recording the song, similar around the time of You Got the Look. You Got the Look was recorded, I believe, in December of 86, and it's January of 87, which isn't, that's only a month apart. So a word like slammin' was still going to be kind of commonly used in his lexicon, his little book of lyrics. He says, I make my choir want to sing, la la la, hee hee hee, get together in my tree. So he's just similar lines, but not exactly the same. Let's get together in my tree, when before he was hoping if we ever get together in my tree. And then later on in the song, he's like basically saying, let's get together in my tree. It's like, well, okay, but you can't climb trees, dog. So not exactly sure how this is going to work. At this point, I don't think he really cares. He's just wanting to continue on with the theme of the song.
Or again, continuing with the theme, I think maybe tree is another metaphor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess you mentioned that earlier, and I just kind of glossed over it, but I think that that's astute. I never let's get together. Okay, I don't know why I didn't think
Yeah,
about Richard.
I just thought of it too. So it's like,
Oh
yeah, I'm talking about trees here.
yeah. You got the oak tree was a dance by Morris Day and a song. And yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, that's another metaphor. People listening to the song, you can figure it out yourself. Yeah, he just said, "Put your foot on the rug, sock it. Don't you stop. Put your foot on the rug." And I think it just feels like he's just having fun, like with these lines. I don't know. What else do you get from that?
I was going to say, is that rug or rock?
Oh, the lyric sheet I'm looking at says rug. Do you hear rock? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe I've been hearing it wrong everywhere. All those years. I'm
not reading off any official printed lyrics from the estate or anything though. So this is just internet lyrics. So
yeah, because that goes way back to the 70s. Put your foot on the rock. Parliament. No, actually, it's Funkadelic. It's
just the fact that you could come up with it to being, kind of an old term that's been used before.
Yeah, and again, animal metaphors. Wait a minute, let me see if I can reach it, because I've had it on the Parliament Live, but it's from, I think, kind of the later, before they went to Warner Brothers, Funkadelic. Is it Landing? Is that Undisco Kid, I think.
What album is that on? Do you know?
Let's see. That one's Tales of Kid Funkadelic, I think. But I first heard it from the Parliament Live album. And it's people funkin' don't know how. You should have seen the bull when he punked the cow. Shoot, I'm drawing a blank on the lyrics. But it's that. But then after that, he says, put your foot on the rock. And that's on the live version.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is something that's been done before. And it kind of really adds some weight to your theory that he's, there's some inspiration there from Parliament Funkadelic for this song.
Yeah, because he does it in the 12-inch version of Another Love, A Hole in Your Head.
Mm-hmm.
Too, put your foot on the rock. And he's, let the girl see you.
Yeah, okay.
So it's but yeah, like I said, I've always heard it as rock, but it could be rug.
That makes more sense, though. I mean, honestly, especially knowing the history behind it and knowing the inspiration, and clearly this song feels like it's inspired by that and inspired by those, George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic music from the 70s and early 80s. I would definitely tend to agree with that, because I've never heard. I mean, yeah, put your foot on the rug. It could be a saying, I suppose, but what does it mean? I have no idea. I have no idea.
So cut the rug, I guess.
I guess. So maybe if anybody else has any theories, or if they know for certain if it's rock or rug, I mean, sure, both could work. Cutting a rug, or just put your foot on the rock, because that's a saying that's been said before. So, okay, so the last kind of interesting thing we get from a lyrical standpoint isn't even said by Prince; it's said by Sheila, and this is when the highly explosive version is fading out. We get her saying, "Somebody get grandma a man." And I just think that's just funny. Somebody get grandma a man. No idea what it means, especially in the context of this song, but I have to bring it up because it makes me chuckle.
Oh yeah, I love her comedy.
Yeah, like at the end of song off of is it Glamorous Life, when she's going out to party and she's like, give me my jewels.
Oh,
the black ones.
Toy Box.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Sister Fate too, where she does that little Lucille Ball impersonation.
Oh yeah. Sheila definitely has a sense of humor that she puts out there in the songs that she makes here. And her little, whether or not it's an ad lib or whatever it is, it's just kind of like, huh? What is she? That makes no sense. But also at the same time, that's kind of funny. Get grandma a man. So anyway, that is the highly explosive version of La 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 Hee Hee. And while, from a lyrical standpoint, we can't really do it justice because it's really about the musicality, how Prince and the band, that at least the band that participates in the making of the song, Sheila, and Eric in Atlanta, maybe Levi, I'm not sure. They add a lot of extra elements to the song that you don't get in the 7-inch version. And so those of you who maybe haven't heard it, I would encourage you to go out there and find it. It's available now, widely released thanks to the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe release last year. So no excuses. You guys can listen to it now and don't say, well, I don't have a record player, so I can't hear it on vinyl anymore. No excuses. This is the version, man. This is the definitive version. It's a lot of fun. I know you and I have already kind of talked about how fun the song is and just kind of how silly it is and its inspirations, but do you have any kind of final thoughts you wanted to mention about the song? Anything that you haven't touched on already?
Just like I said, it's stands the test of time for me. I still get the same enjoyment out of it now than I did. And, having listened to it, just prior to the show, just what fun 1987 was and just what it felt like to be a Prince fan back then. To me, I think that's sort of where it started to really crystallize, not looking at it no longer as a naive teenager, but now, the early stages of adulthood, and to have that B-side along with the Sign of the Times album, it just took that, love of Prince music to a whole different level. And as for the song itself, it's fun. Like I said, there's a lot of P-Funk history in there. There's a lot of, towards the end, it goes into James Brown territory almost.
Mm-hmm.
And, and also a testament to his genius that to just take a knockoff song like that and not only make it interesting, but make it funky, make it a well-loved B-side, to stand up along with, She's Always in My Hair, 17 Days. That's a testament because, that song really could have just been a forgettable B-side that nobody would remember or talk about.
Or not even a B-side.
Or not even a B-side at all, exactly.
Could have been just buried in the vault because you could have listened to this and be like, yeah, that was kind of lazy writing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna release this. I successfully created a song based off of, maybe the parameters of the bet. I still win.
Yeah.
But no, it was to use 80 slang, it was dope. And it really was. It really truly was.
It was deaf.
It was dope and deaf. Possibly even slamming, yes.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was a happy session.
Yeah.
Too, with all the comedy that was going on in it.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that between Prince and Sheila. Their dynamic, working dynamic was really in full swing, and you could tell that the two of them had a true, it really comes across to me at least, that they had a true friendship. There wasn't just a working relationship. Like they could really enjoy each other's company and feel like, Prince had like this kind of this reputation of being very hard on his bandmates, and some of the stories that have come out over the years of Prince kicking Brown Mark in the ass, when he's not playing bass well enough, but you just kind of almost feel like these two were more on like equal footing, equal terms. Like he doesn't feel like he treated Sheila the same as he might have treated some of his other bandmates or band members. And maybe that's just because Sheila brought a different, she already had her thing and he liked what her thing was and wanted to incorporate that into his music for a few years there in the mid to late 80s. And her contributions are appreciated, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Too, she had a career sort of prior to Prince. She was with George Duke and Lionel Richie, Marvin Gaye. So she was practically a seasoned professional. And I guess we look at where Prince made her a front person, just like Morris Day, made them the front, the centerpieces of whatever project, where they were more comfortable just kind of at, or prior to their stardom, just comfortable being the professional musician in it. And I think, I guess sometimes we take that for granted.
Something about drummers. He liked pushing drummers out front, I guess.
Yeah.
with Morris and Sheila.
Put your hand in your pocket and look cool.
Yeah. They made it work though. They successfully transitioned from behind the drum kit to front man and woman respectively. So yeah, La La La. He's a great song. Very fun. Lyrically, kind of interesting lines, but for the most part, it's not about that. It's about the music and just about the combination of a silly little nursery rhyme type story with some dirty double entendres, envelope pushing off the table in the 12-inch version, and 10 plus minutes of fun, funky, joyous party song. So yeah, I'm down with it, and I enjoyed it. So Richard, where can people find you and what you're up to?
Well, so you can find me on Twitter at RichardCole_now and on Instagram at RichardCole_Amari. And Amari Purple Talk Season 3 is coming October 10th, I'm shooting for.
October 10th. So yeah, that's coming up. That's coming up next month. Very cool. So check it out. I'll put a link to your show in the show notes so people can find it easily.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. So this has been Jason Brenninger for the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I wanted to say thank you again to Richard Cole for joining me on this episode, calling in from St. Louis, Missouri, my old stomping grounds. And as far as the show, you can find Press Rewind Pod on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm also on YouTube now, so look it up on YouTube if you enjoy listening to shows on YouTube. I also try to throw some interesting tidbits or musical compositions that I can share with the listeners if you want to dig a little deeper into Prince's vault. I'm able to do that when I can. I try to share what I have. And also, I've got a Discord. If you're a user of Discord and you like the show, I definitely have a Discord link to my channel on the show notes. So check it out. And until next time, thank you very much and goodbye.